Hello everyone, my name is Jesse Heisel. I'm a filmmaker, and if you're familiar with this channel, you know that the horror genre is what I'm all about. Now for this video, I decided that I wanted to try something a little bit different for my subscribers, and basically wanted to give my take on some new movies that have come out in the horror genre. For this video, I'm actually going to talk about two horror slasher films that have recently come out within the past year. And basically just want to give my take, seeing as how I am a huge fan of the genre and have made plenty of horror films myself. So the two films I'm going to talk about today are Playing with Dolls and Playing with Dolls Bloodlust. Now, I came across the trailer for Playing with Dolls Bloodlust about a month ago, and I have to admit, the trailer itself did intrigue me. It got me interested enough from what the killer looked like and from what they showed in the trailer to not only get me to want to watch the movie itself, but also the first movie. Bloodlust is obviously the sequel, so I thought it would be best to watch the first one, Playing with Dolls, and then the second one. So here's my review on both of the movies. When it comes to Playing with Dolls, there are a few things that I do like. One of the things that I do like within both films actually is the killer. I think the killer has a great look to it. The mask is great, his whole outfit is pretty convincing, and the movements and actions of the killer are convincing. I think the actor who portrayed the slasher in these films did a good job, and I really liked that. Another thing I did enjoy from the first one is the music. I thought the music was not necessarily what I would call traditional music for the horror genre, and that's what I liked about it. It was different. It had more of a, I want to say, not dubstep vibe to it, but definitely electronic vibe. Kind of dance music in a way, a bit, which is definitely different from a horror movie. Yeah, I think people would probably complain about that, but I kind of like that. I like that it was different. But probably the most thing that I would say that I liked, or at least can say appreciate about the movie, is coming from the writer-director. Now, his name is Rene Perez, I believe. I don't know if I'm saying the last name right. But what I can appreciate, seeing as how I am also an independent filmmaker and have a lot of experience in working with low budget and no budget films, the thing I can appreciate is that he was a one-man crew. By that I mean he literally was the crew. When you look at the credits, he was the writer, director, producer, he was a cinematographer, he also wrote and made all the music. Basically the whole credits is just him. The credits aren't that long. I mean, it's literally just him. So knowing from experience how difficult having more than just one job on a film can be, I do have to give credit there. Now comes the part where I share with you the parts of the movie that I didn't like. This is probably where the majority of the video is going to be. There were a lot of issues with this film. Although I can appreciate Rene making a full movie by himself with no other crew members, this film needed help. There was a lot of issues. I'm going to start off with the biggest issues from Playing with Dolls. The biggest issue of this entire movie, and there are more, but I'm going to get with the biggest one first, is that this movie is extremely boring. It is just boring. I mean, there's really no nice way to say it. This film, it's only like an hour and 20 minutes, but it felt like 2 hours. It just drug on. And that's the thing, is it's a slasher film, so you expect to be a lot of action, but there's not. Basically, what you see in the trailer is all the action you're going to see in the movie. Pretty much all the action that takes place in this movie is the first 5 minutes and then the last 15 minutes. That's where all the action is. There's about 20 minutes of action, and then basically about an hour of what I like to call filler. And there's a lot of filler in this movie, which I'm going to get to right now. This movie just drug on. There were scenes that didn't need to be there. They drug out scenes for far too long. There's one really in particular. It was basically the part of the movie where the lead role is going to the house. And just so if you don't know what this film is, I'll say this now. Basically, the film is about a millionaire, a crazy millionaire, who records people being stalked and killed by an insane man in the woods that he has control of. He has like a microphone in this killer's mask or something to tell him when to kill these people and when not to. And he basically has cameras all around the woods and the house. So basically, this woman gets hired to house sit this millionaire's house. There's cameras everywhere and everything. And getting to the house took forever. Basically, she got in her car and it basically showed the entire trip there. There was emphasis, and I know why it took a long time to do this part. Basically, they wanted to show you that it was a very long drive. So they start off by showing the gas tank at full, and they just constantly show you of her driving for about, I want to say 3.5 minutes of her just driving from different shots. Shots from outside, panning shots, shots from inside, another shot of the gas tank to show that it's halfway, now it's empty. And it just took forever. It wasn't interesting, it wasn't epic or anything, it was just filler. And that's when she met up with the woman who's going to take her to the house. And so they got into this outdoors golf cart thing and drove to the house. And that took another 3 minutes of them just showing them driving to the house. And it just took forever. And there was just stuff like that that was going on throughout this entire hour of filler. When she got to the house, there was a giant montage of her. It was like 5 minutes. It was too long. There was one part where it was about 2 minutes almost of her just trying on clothes. That really bothered me. It was like, we don't need to see a montage of this woman trying on clothes in this house. Okay, this isn't a teen pop movie targeted towards, teenage girls. This isn't 27 Dresses, all right? We don't need to see a montage of women trying on clothes. And it was just stuff like that. Another big thing that bothered me was the lack of kills. Like I said, there's only about 20 minutes of action. There was one kill in the beginning, then an hour of filler, and then the last 15 minutes action started happening. There was like some people trying to keep people out of the death arena or whatever the maniac called the place, and if like these army people got in, then the killer would kill them, pretty much. That makes sense? I don't know. And it was just boring because the deaths weren't even that interesting. It was like a stab, or someone got hit in the back of the head with like a hammer, and you'd see like maybe a blood squib pop off in the back of their head. And it wasn't interesting. Each kill lasted about like maybe 10 seconds. Everyone's running around, and then killer pops up behind a tree, stabs him, boom, done. Really big issue with this film. There wasn't an ending. There was not an ending. There wasn't like some sort of twist or build up towards a sequel type of ending. No, there just wasn't an ending. The movie just ended. I hate that. That is one of the biggest pieces with this movie. It just ends. Basically how it ends, and I don't feel this is a spoiler alert because I'm telling you right now, don't see this movie. It's not worth your time. I'm basically just telling you what happens, and then I'm saving you an hour and a half. I'm an asshole. Basically how it ends is the woman escapes from the killer, and then the millionaire just comes out of nowhere with his car and says, "Get in, I'll get you to safety." And then they drive off, then it cuts to black. There's no explanation. Does she die? Does nothing. Nothing is explained. You don't know how he got there or anything. It just ends. And that's not how you end a movie. You just don't end it. There really felt like there should have been like 2 or 3 more scenes to really emphasize or have a good ending. Something. Now for the technical part of this film, there were a lot of issues. Cinematography was good. It wasn't terrible. There were some issues, but it wasn't the worst I've ever seen in a movie. But there was something that was very obvious throughout the entire movie, and this is what really took me out of the movie. Aside from it being boring, this is what really took me out of the movie. The sound quality and the sound design were absolutely terrible. And there's just no sugarcoating. It was awful. They did not do the audio correctly at all. Basically, when you watch this movie, you're going to hear hissing throughout the entire movie. Now, if you don't know much about audio or sound in movies, if you're hearing hissing, basically what it means is when they were recording the sound or the dialogue or whatever for the movie, they didn't have the mic or the device that the mic would be connected to. They didn't have it loud enough, or the actors weren't speaking loud enough. So when they went into editing it, it was too quiet to hear. So they had to bump up the sound in editing. And the problem with that is if you bump it up too much, you'll begin to hear this hiss. That's what was going on throughout the entire movie. The entire movie, every time someone spoke, you heard a hissing in the background. It was very distracting, very obvious, and it just took me out of the movie. Another thing about the sound is the sound design. The sound design was, the best way to describe it, it was comical. Because they basically put everything had a sound to it. Things that didn't need sound had a sound to it. And they weren't even like good sound effects. They were like almost like stock sounds, like stuff you could easily find like on a CD or download off a website or whatever. And it was awful. Like every movement someone made, every time they picked something up, took something out of a pocket, sat on a bed, everything had a sound, and some of it didn't even match. Like there's a part where the main actress was sitting or sleeping on a bed, and every time she moved her hand or face, they had a sound for that, but it didn't sound like a bed or a blanket. It sounded more like someone in post was like rubbing a napkin against their hand or something. It was very, it's bad. Okay, so that was the first one. Now I want to talk about the sequel that came out this year. Playing with Dolls, Bloodlust. Now, like I said earlier, the whole reason I watched these two movies was because I thought the trailer was interesting. It got me interested enough to not only watch this movie, but also the first one. And like with the first one, I'll start with what I liked. Again, Renee was the only crew member in this entire thing. And I do have to give appreciation to that, because I know firsthand what it's like to work on an entire film by yourself. So I do have to give props to, yet again, making a full-length movie by yourself. Another thing I liked, I did appreciate that there was more people in the film, more kills. The first one, like I said, had a lot of filler because there was only one actress in the entire movie basically, so there wasn't a lot of kills. This one had more kills. So, I mean, that was good. I mean, it's a slasher film. You gotta have more kills, especially if it's a sequel. And again, I liked the killer. Same mask. I believe it was the same actor. So yeah, no complaints there. The killer still looked good and everything. But now I'm going to get to the parts that I don't like, which again is probably going to be the majority of this review. So the plot was basically the same as the first one. There was just more people. But yet again, it was boring. Wasn't as boring as the first one, I will say that. There were more people, so obviously there was a bit more action. But it just still wasn't that interesting. It really didn't like pull me in to the movie. I didn't really care. You know, I didn't care about any of the characters. I didn't care if they died or they lived. I just wasn't interested in any of these. I didn't feel sympathy for anyone dying or anything. Yeah, it was boring. The sound was better. There was still some hissing here and there, but the sound was better. The sound design wasn't as shitty this time around. So there was that. But the biggest issue that I have with this film, and if you see the movie, you're going to agree with me, is that the trailer lies. Basically what I'm saying is what you think you're going to see in this movie, you don't see. What I mean by that is, now I don't know why, but I'm just going to tell you what I saw. If you see the trailer, you see a lot of gore, a lot of the kills, and they look great. You know, I mean, the practical effects, they look good. I mean, I know this is a really low budget film, and they look good. But the problem is they don't show the kills in the movie. Any type of gore that you see in the trailer is not shown in this film. Now, I don't know why. Now, I don't know if the version that I saw was like a censored version. I don't believe that, but I don't know. I don't know why they cut out all the kills, all of the gore. You know, there was nothing really. There was some blood and a couple of squibs here and there, but I mean, like if you see the trailer, you see a woman get her face smashed in with a sledgehammer. That looks awesome, and I wanted to see that in the movie. That was like one of the big reasons why I wanted to see the movie, because I saw that in the trailer. I was like, holy shit, I want to see that happen. But when you see the movie, what happens is the killer approaches the one with the sledgehammer, winds back to swing, and then they cut to the millionaire watching it happen. And then they have like a second of like the aftermath of the face being crushed. And that's pretty much how all the death scenes go. They're either off screen or they cut away to a different scene or a different location. And I don't know why. You know, it doesn't make any sense. Like, that was the thing. Like, if you're making a slasher film, that's what your target audience wants to see. They want to see cool death scenes. And you cut them all out. That doesn't make any sense to me. Another big thing is, I knew the first movie was really low budget. You know, I don't know what the budget is. They don't tell what the budget is on either one of these films on IMDb. But I'm guessing at most 10,000, maybe. But that's me being generous. I'm thinking maybe 5,000, maybe less. And I knew that from the first one. But in the second one, it was very obvious. The first one, really not that noticeable. I mean, that's because nothing really happened in the movie. But this one, more stuff happened, and you did notice it. Like I said, well, if they did show the gore in the film, that would have helped, but they didn't. But there were things that you could tell this movie was really fake. Like, first off, the killer's weapon. I mean, it looks good from a distance, but when you get a close-up of him, like, hacking away, or just a close-up of the weapon, you can tell it's literally just a big plastic knife. And, ooh, that was bad. And, like, when you go to the killer's, like, a hut or whatever, he basically lives in, like, a rotted-out tree and has, like, dead body parts hanging everywhere. You can tell they're plastic. Like, he literally has one prop in the film of a half, someone cut in half, just hanging there on like a tree limb. And you can tell it's fake. They even have a close-up of like the dead body, and it's like a guy hanging by his arms with his face like screaming. And it's completely fake. Like, I've seen that prop in like Halloween catalogs and like online shops for, you know, haunted houses. Like, you know, you could tell like all the props and gore were fake, and that's not good. You know, it. Oh. And then on top of that, another thing that ticked me off in this one, which happened in the first one, is the ending. There's no ending. And this time it's even worse. Basically, how it ends is the millionaire he catches up with the people in the woods. How he catches up with them, I don't know, it's not explained. And basically, it's the final two survivors, the slasher and the millionaire, and he's basically holding the two survivors at gunpoint saying, you either fight or you die. And so they decide to fight the slasher. And they're basically fighting the slasher. They have the guy who's surviving has the slasher in a chokehold. The slasher has him in a chokehold, and then it cuts to black. It's not an ending. Like, that's not an ending, all right, for any movie. You just don't end it in the middle of an action like that. That's it. You know, it felt like, again, just like in the first one, there was 2 or 3 more scenes that they just cut out, and that's just not good. So all in all, playing with dolls and playing with dolls Bloodlust was not an enjoyable time for me. They were both extremely boring. The writing was bad. There was a lot of filler scenes that didn't need to be there. They just put them in there so they could make it to a feature-length runtime. The gore was what brought me in to seeing these films, but the trailer lied to me, and I don't like being lied to when it comes to movies. You don't do that to your audience. That's just not good, and that makes a person hate the film even more. There's a few things here and here that I can appreciate, like the director being the only crew member. But that's, you know, at the same time, if you don't make a good movie, then, you know, if the script's not good, then the movie's not going to be good, no matter if you had a crew or not. You know, that's where it all starts off with. If the script's good, then there's a chance of it being good, whether or not there's a crew. But the story wasn't there. So, IMDb has a rating for these films. Playing with Dolls has a rating of 2.4. Playing with Dolls Bloodlust has a rating of 2.2. Now the question of the day is, do I agree with these ratings? I have to say yes. I do agree with these ratings. When you get a 2-star rating, that means that these films are unanimously hated by the viewers. It could be a bunch of things. Either the writing was bad, the direction was bad, the action was bad. In these two movies' cases, those are all connected to why people have given these films such a bad rating. And I completely agree. They're not good films, you know. And seeing as how I'm such a fan of the horror genre, especially the independent realm of filmmaking, and am very willing to give low-budget films an open-mindedness when I watch them, there are things that I just can't forgive or look past when it comes to filmmaking. And if a script's bad, and when you deliberately lie in trailers just to basically catfish in people to buy your films and stuff, that's not going to make people happy, and that's not going to give you a good review. And these films, they don't deserve a good rating. They don't deserve your time. It's basically what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't recommend these movies. I don't recommend them at all. They're not worth your time. There are plenty of good horror independent films out there that don't get a chance to shine. And these films don't deserve your time. They're boring. They're going to bore you. Like, nothing happens in the first one, basically. And then the second one isn't much of an improvement. And if you're as big as a fan as I am, you're not going to appreciate it because there's nothing original about it. There's nothing to really pull you into the story. You don't care about any of the characters. If you're there for the gore, you're not going to get it. You're going to get some blood, but that's about it. If you're there for nudity, there's a bit of nudity. And I will say that the two black women from both the films, they are beautiful women and they look great. Don't get me wrong, they are gorgeous women. But I'm not there personally to see the nudity. And plus, it didn't bring anything to the story. You know, you're just putting nudity in there just to sell another DVD. That's not good story making to me. You know, that's not good storytelling when you're just adding in some tits. You know, that's overdone. It's not original. It's cliched and it's lazy. So I do agree with IMDb. I don't like these films. I don't wish anyone to watch these. They are not worth your time. And I really hope that they don't make any more. Honestly, you know, try something else. Focus more on your script. It's basically the thing I'm trying to say. So, thank you for watching this. I don't know if I'll make any more reviews. I might, if I come across some films that I feel you should know about or not watch. Until then, thank you for watching, and more videos coming your way.